So I'm going to get this title business of the sermon over first thing. All right? In many congregations, ministers plan services called questions from the box. And what that means is that you, the people, their boss, write down questions about you-ism, religion, spirituality, the meaning of life, etc. And these questions are collected by the ushers in a box or a basket and brought to the minister to answer cold. Now, some clergy ask that the questions be submitted ahead of time so that they can respond in a thoughtful rather than a off-the-cuff way. I prefer to live dangerously, if not foolishly. 2 years in a row, though, the question that was submitted, "Why is there something rather than nothing?" I purposely picked up and put aside. I was not going to tackle that one. Until I heard from the wife of the person who submitted that question that he was actually quite upset that I didn't answer his question year after year. And so I sought him out, and I said of his question, "I don't know." I'm not an intellectual genius. I am not a scientist. I am not even a philosopher or a cosmologist. So I want you to ponder this question. And I want you to ponder something that short-circuits my brain every time I come near it. How did the universe begin? So that there is something rather than nothing? The Big Bang is the closest postulation we have in answer to these questions. But what was the bang before the Big Bang? Folks reply that there were some elements from the periodic chemistry chart floating around. Floating around in what? And how were they created? It is hard for me to get my little pea brain around the idea that out of nothing, something. It's not an answer. And so I am comfortable keeping my brain from short-circuiting and answering the original question from the box simply with, "I don't know." Because when I lift my head to the night sky filled with stars, as if someone was playing jacks and then just threw their hand across the night sky, I am filled with wonder and awe and reverence. I am reminded of how small I am in relation to millennia, to all of life, to the stars and what is beyond them, the universes, the entire cosmos, which as far as I can tell has no end, let alone a beginning. And I can rest in the awe and the wonder and the reverence, content that that can be my response instead of why. I was thrilled to learn that even the Dalai Lama has answered questions, the big questions of the big questions of meaning and the questions of everyday life with an "I don't know." As Pico Iyer, the travel writer who often accompanies the Dalai Lama, wrote, "We are always much more confident in the things we think we know than we should be. That we have an unlimited ability to ignore our ignorance." He goes on to say, "Knowledge is a priceless gift, but the illusion of knowledge is more dangerous than ignorance." Now, some of you are familiar with the Boy Scouts and know that there is a God and Country badge that they earn as part of on their way to becoming an Eagle Scout. For a 15-year-old in a former congregation I served, earning this badge presented him with a conundrum. Please remember that the Boy Scouts was intended and was founded with the intention to be a religious organization. It wasn't to be all about building fires and playing with knives. This 15-year-old had been denied his God and country badge because he could not, in good conscience, acknowledge God. If he had any God at all, it was science. He believed that all human questions that we have can be and will be eventually answered through science. Now, there may be folks in this room that believe the same thing that this 15-year-old did. I should have asked this brilliant young man why there is something rather than nothing. And if I could have counseled him, I would have counseled him toward awe, wonder, reverence, and humility. For humility is key to the concept of understanding mystery. I would have given him this quote that Sam read earlier from the naturalist Chet Rabo. All that we know, now and forever, all scientific knowledge that we have of this world, or ever will have, is as an island in the sea. Still, the mystery surrounds us. In an effort to be inclusive of all persons' beliefs in Unitarian Universalist congregations, that is, inclusive of all peoples except for theists, we use any word but God to describe what is of ultimate value and meaning. We say divine, one with many names, inspiration, the one who cannot be named, spirit of life, holy one, source of all being. We try to offend no one and may in the end create meaninglessness. So I have finally, over the years, settled on the term mystery, which means to me, I don't know. But I can still feel awe and wonder and reverence and humility. I can still look at science and see the miracles that it uncovers. And I can look at the forest and be just as amazed. And I can still believe that there is something greater than myself, even if that is just all of us together creating something else. I can believe that the cosmos is infinite, that the point of life is not so much answers or even knowledge, but to live in gratitude, compassion, and reverence. A professor of religion at the University of Rochester, Emil Homerin, asks, what if life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived? What if life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived? Acknowledging mystery is acknowledging not knowing, trusting or having faith in. I have always loved this quote by Edward Teller, who it turns out was a physicist and earned the name Father of the Hydrogen Bomb. But this is an incredible quote. When you get to the end of all the light you know, and it's time to step into the darkness of the unknown, faith is knowing that one of two things shall happen. Either you will be given something solid to stand on, or you will be taught how to fly. So many of us push and push and push in an effort to make something happen or to know something. But often it's not our pushing or our effort that makes something happen, but rather it's the surrender of illusion of our control, that answers come, or something happens, or the way forward is made clear. You know, there's a lot of misinformation out there about mystics. It is too often only associated with a life of denial, or with the early ascetic pillar saints who literally lived on pillars in the desert, or those who choose a life, sometimes cloistered, sometimes not, in some religious order or sect, in a state of denial of this earthly reality, to commune with the holy. A mystic may be seen as one who interacts with spirits on the other side of the veil, functioning as a medium. They are often greeted with great suspicion rather than respect. Brother David Steindl-Rast, a Benedictine monk known for his work weaving the intersection of science and spirituality, defines mysticism, quote, as the experience of communion with ultimate reality. He says, in our best, most alive moments, we feel somehow one with that fundamental whatever it is that keeps us all going. He almost sounds like a you, doesn't he? But we don't have to be mystics to wander around in this notion of mystery. Richard Rohr, another Franciscan friar and teacher, writes, I'm deliberately using the word mystery to point to depth, an open future, immense freedom, a kind of beauty and truth that can't be fully spoken or defined. He goes on to say that mystery is like falling into the abyss and being grounded. It is coming to the edge of all that we know, that letting go, surrendering, that ironically allows us to be fully open to mystery. Rohr says, when you allow yourself to fall into the abyss, into hiddenness, limitlessness, unknowability, a void without boundaries, you discover it's somehow a rich, supportive, embracing spaciousness where you don't have to ask or answer the questions of whether you're right or wrong. You're being held, and so you do not need to try to hold yourself together. Mystery is not something you can't know. Mystery is endless knowability. And we access it not by being driven to find it, not by thinking our way through it, but with humility, surrender, a deep breath, a sigh. Or as Pico Iyer says, transformation comes when I'm not in charge. Transformation comes when we realize that being fully human is more important than being in the know. Many religious traditions have rituals or practices that set the stage for a person to experience a oneness with all that is, an experience of no self, experiencing no separation from all that is. It is the goal of our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all of existence of which we are a part. But mysticism and mystery are beyond mere respect for the interdependent web. They are oneness with it. In her book, Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert gives one of the best descriptions of what Rohr means when he says that mystery is endless knowability. She's at a ashram in India. I mean, she's been so mocked for her book, and I think it has such beautiful insight that I want to share this with you. I got pulled through the wormhole of the absolute. And in that rush, I suddenly understood the workings of the universe completely. I left my body, I left the room, I left the planet, I stepped through time, and I entered the void. I was inside the void, but I also was the void, and I was looking at the void all at the same time. The void was a place of limitless peace and wisdom. This void was conscious, and it was intelligent. I was both a tiny piece of the universe and exactly the same size as the universe. Now, like most of us, as soon as Gilbert intellectually realized what she was in the midst of, she tried to hold on to it forever. which is when, of course, she returned to her own body, mind, and spirit. I don't think any of us get to hang out in mystery all of our lives, except perhaps at the end of our lives. The discipline of sitting or meditating or praying or walking or doing yogic practices may lead to brief experiences of oneness with all in the great mystery, but they're not guarantees. You don't have to go to an ashram or a retreat center or a Buddhist monastery to experience mystery. Immersion in nature can create that same sense of awe, wonder, reverence, and connection to mystery. Look deeply into a wildflower, or consider the huge hydraulic power of the Zambezi River. Look at the endless movement of waves upon sand, advancing and retreating. Or check out those northern lights, dancing in all their colors in the night. Or stop and take some time with that nest of baby mice you uncover in your woodpile. My, they're ugly little things. And they're incredibly vulnerable and precious. Lie down on the forest floor in Northern California and look up at the seemingly endless stretch of the giant sequoia. Check out the color wheel of the maple leaves in fall. Watch the mountains rise up and declare themselves. Have you seen the misty fog hanging out on the evergreens at dawn? Or settle in for the night in the fields? Have you heard the call of the osprey along the Willamette? Have you let garden earth sift through your hands? Have you watched seed grow to splendor? Have you been beside yourself with joy when you found an owl feather or a huge agate? Have you felt the rain upon dry land? Mystery is all around us. Not knowing and knowing, the two defining qualities of mystery, are all around us. Reason to fall on our knees in awe, wonder, and reverence are all around us. The winter season is another reason to be filled with mystery. These winter seasons, with the Festival of Lights, is for me the most mysterious of all of our seasons. Huge outdoor fires will be lit on the solstice to guide the light back. Candles will be lit for 8 days to remind present-day Judaism of an ancient miracle of a tiny bit of oil keeping the lamp lit for all those days and managing to reconsecrate a destroyed temple, to make it holy again. On Christmas Eve, and sometimes Christmas morning, Christians will celebrate the birth that is for them the light of the world, the Christ child. All of these celebrations are shrouded not only in myth, but mystery. And the dark that is with us this season brings us a chance to hunker down and in, to become still and reflect, to gather to you those whom you love. The dark itself calls to be explored, to reveal its own mysteries. There is something about the smell of cedar and fir that calls. Something about the low light of candles or the strings of lights. It all creates a hush. It beckons us into quiet and silence. And if you listen hard enough with your spirit, you may just hear the word mystery in your heart. I want to leave you with a short poem by the late Reverend Nancy Schaefer, for they describe so well not only mystery, but our human response to it. I have been looking for the words that come before the words, the ones older than silence, the ones not mine that can't be found by thought, the ones that hold the beginnings of the world and are never used up, which arrive loaned and make me weep. May it be so. Blessed be. Amen.